ADHD sucks. If you're new to the channel, my name is Winter Win, and I recently got diagnosed with ADHD, and this is my 1 month summary on being on Strattera, which is a non-stimulant ADHD medication. This video isn't going to be talking about my journey getting to this point. I think I'm going to make that a separate video. This video is simply going to be my general log and my reaction and side effects, etc., of starting the medication. To my surprise, ADHD medication has now changed the way I perceive the world, and I've had to unlearn a lot of things that I learned to cope with ADHD without realizing subconsciously it was how I learned to move forward with ADHD. With that being said, ADHD medication was one of the best things I could have ever done, and I am very thankful to be on it. For myself, I actually didn't start on Adderall. It is actually a medication that wouldn't be safe for me because of my general mental health history and other medications I am on. I started on Strattera. It has a generic name, I believe. I am not the best at pronunciating it, so we're just going to go with Strattera. I am now about a month into the medication. So after diagnosis, I started on 40 milligrams once a day for the first week, and then bumped it up to 80 milligrams, split into 40 milligrams in the morning and then 40 milligrams at night. Eventually, insurance did prefer I was on a daily medication of just one 80 milligram tablet, which is what I'm currently on, and that's working great. Starting on Strattera, did I have any side effects? Yes, but actually very, very minimal. For me, my only side effect on Strattera was slight headaches. I would consider them just normal level headaches, if not a little less. They weren't too bad. It was more of like a little pressure on my head. And then outside of that, I had some nausea. That was it. Very minimal nausea, as a matter of fact. So for me, this was a cakewalk compared to other medications, and it lasted less than a week. It was only a few days. The effects of the medication typically take about 4 weeks to kick in, but for me, I was noticing the changes almost immediately. I'd say about a week and a half in. The changes were subtle, but to others, they were very noticeable. So I think starting on a medication like this, you want to make sure you have a good support network, let them know what's going on, and they can also, have an outside look and perspective of how the medication is working for you. So the most important thing for me on the medication, the biggest change, positive change I noticed, was my ability to executive motor tasks. So basically, list of things to do was always very scary for me, and I would procrastinate it in any way, shape, or form that I could. So if it was a task, I could not get them done. It was very difficult. Sometimes I would, but it would create a lot of inner turmoil and inner frustrations to get to that point. The second thing that I noticed right away is just my ability to stay on task, even as simple as going to the gym. When I would go to the gym, being on the treadmill was a really difficult thing for me because it was just so brain numbing being on a treadmill for 20 minutes. I would go crazy in terms of just being fidgety and just not wanting to be on the treadmill. So immediately going to the gym, I was able to do longer gym sessions because I was able to just stay focused and not spin off into a million different thoughts. That was really drastic for me. Third thing, I am able to articulate a lot better. Even working on YouTube videos, for example, I would always struggle in the pathway I wanted to do or direction of a non-scripted video. So now in this video, I'm able to articulate a lot better, and that was also significantly a big improvement. Another thing I noticed is one of my all-time favorite games. This is subtle, but for me, it was actually very impactful and a very big indicator that this might be working. So for my entire life, I've played a game called RuneScape, specifically now old school RuneScape. In this game, it is very much a grinding game, and essentially what would always happen, I was very passionate about this game, but I could never advance very far into it because I just couldn't stay focused. The game isn't structured, so it lets you kind of do your own journey at your own pace. And that to me is so complicated because I would just go into analysis paralysis. So to give you an example, there's, I believe, 211 quests in the game. Each quest has a different set of things you have to do, and then you could complete them. I have played this game now 10, 15 years, and in that time period, I completed a total of 80 quests. In the last 2 weeks, have been able to complete over 100 quests. And I realized that this wasn't like the healthiest way to use my time, but it really healed something inside of me because I was able to do something that I've always wanted to do but could never do. And even on my free time, I would just always spiral in terms of what should I do today? And not having anything to do was actually really frustrating. But then I would also become frustrated and overwhelmed when I had too many things to do. So with all that being said, the ADHD medication has actually been life-changing. I am now really having to relearn how I approach things. There's certain things I just would always struggle with, whether it be classes, education, in more technical sense. So I'm now reevaluating my ability to handle those things, whether it be reading a book or trying to absorb more complex data. So that's currently where I am now. I'm trying to dip my toes back into some passions that I had that I really was struggling with and seeing if I can make much more productive progress in the same way that I did in RuneScape. RuneScape is a silly example, but it was a big sign of something's changing. And ultimately, it's amazing because I would try forcing myself to enjoy the game. And what would happen in the past is I would start yawning. I would just have a hard time staying on task. I'd distract myself with anything else. And all of a sudden, I'm able to enjoy the game. This 1 month journey has been life-changing. But I will say, I am going to make a future video on getting to my diagnosis and getting this all started, because I will say that the first steps getting there with ADHD were actually very, very difficult. Getting the appointment made, dealing with the insurance, getting prescribed, etc., etc. That process for someone with ADHD is actually very complicated to navigate, especially alone. So I am definitely going to be making a video about this in the future. So make sure to subscribe if you'd like to see something like that. I think it's very important to get proper diagnosis. I think it's important to not misdiagnose yourself. But for those that want to get in front of a provider to get a possible diagnosis, whether it be ADHD or something else, I will be making a video for that. And I will make it as ADHD friendly as possible, because I wish there was something like that when I was starting this journey. Thank you all for watching. Feel free to subscribe. This channel is really just going to be encapsulating my life, my hobbies, my passions, and also just giving general advice on things like this. So anyways, thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye for now.